is a very experienced investor and entrepreneur. He worked at JP Morgan and PayPal as a financial strategist, advised and partnered with Alibaba, Huawei, and other leading industrial parks in China, co-founded Eureka Therapeutics, which is a leading cancer therapeutic platform company, and also invested in Databricks, Mammoth, Ironclad, and so on. So aside from his very impressive resume, his leadership in constructing cross-border collaborations and entrepreneurship roots his innovation narrative. As a former Berkeley graduate and now both the president of the UC Berkeley Chinese Alumni International Association and a continued mentor for Berkeley Skydeck, Mr. Ng has strong ties with Berkeley, a community that brands diversity and innovation. We now have him back here with us today to share 3 things he wished he known when he was at Berkeley. Please welcome Mr. Chuck Ng.
All right, testing. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, very good. I'm gonna time myself so I schedule. I'm all about. I know you guys all have a long day, so I want to make sure that we, actually some of the key takeaways we talk about. Can I have a raise of hand first of all? I want to ask how many of you guys are freshmen here? Please. Oh, freshmen. Wow. And how many of them are actually undergraduates? Raise your hand if you're undergraduate. All right, very good. And then how many of you are graduate students? One there, okay. Very good. And how many of you are alumni? Any alumni? And how many of you guys are friends of Berkeley? Including Stanford, we consider you friends of Berkeley. Nobody. There you go. Okay, as I expected, that's sort of, okay, very good. So my presentation will be very relevant for a lot of you, well, pretty much all of you. As I said, as a Berkeley graduate, I want to talk about things that are most useful to all of you, and 3 things I wish I'd known when I was at Berkeley. Well, first of all, let me share a little bit about myself. I think we kind of have some introduction already. I grew up in San Francisco, and obviously, always mentioned BCAIA is the largest international conference. I was actually the founding chairman of Berkeley China Summit. Also, currently, we organize the largest one on entrepreneurship and innovations, well, Berkeley Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum, BEEF. I graduated with an MBA from INSEAD and Tsinghua. I consider myself an entrepreneur, investor of 3 unicorn companies, but most importantly, I consider myself a community builder. Specifically, I'm going to share a little bit more about mentorship and some of the things that we're doing actually at the Berkeley community. Golden Gate Bridge, of course, that's probably all of you guys been there, right? Raise your hand, raise your hand. See how many of you have been there. Well, that's for everybody, right? Thanks. Right, and not only is it sort of like the reason why it's my, it's my favorite bridge is not only because it's beautiful, but more importantly, I think it's really the symbolism behind it. Because back 100 years ago, this is actually almost 100 years ago, the bridge was built then. It was the most innovative bridge or most technologically sound bridge back then because it's a suspension bridge, right? But more importantly, really kind of back in those days, when the first thing when you came in, not airplanes, but really kind of coming in with your boat. So this is the gateway to America. So I think the symbolism behind it is actually much even greater on that front. And then the other thing about it is, one of my favorite movies is Iron Man. But I cannot, I have to include, of course, the Golden Gate Bridge behind it because that's my favorite bridge. So I can combine the best of the 2 worlds, if you will. However, I think on Iron Man, I do want to actually ask you, it's actually, actually in Iron Man 2, there's actually a short clip that talks about an entrepreneur from the Valley. And it's actually a very successful company. Anybody want to guess what entrepreneur was played in Iron Man 2? Just a little bit of tip, it's one of the most successful hardware companies. Yeah, go ahead.
Elon Musk.
Oh, he said Elon Musk. Well, I keep you guys guessing, see if he's right, okay? But that's, okay, someone said Elon Musk. Anybody else? Any guess? Anything else? Anybody else? Well, anyways, we'll see, okay, if he's right. But I'll come back to that. But anyways, and part of this discussion point is actually, I've kind of been preparing actually by the discussion for today, specifically for all of you. And a part of that experience has been, I've actually been a mentor for a number of folks over the years, including Yan. Yan actually did his PhD and then currently working at Facebook. And below him is Charles Chi, which actually did his PhD at Stanford and now working at Waymo. These are mentees of mine, as well as actually Ella and Kimberly. So Ella and Kimberly actually were Schwarzman scholars. Ella actually graduated from Princeton, and then Kim graduated from Stanford, and then they became Schwarzman scholars since 2016. So I've actually been a mentor as well as an advisor at Schwarzman College as well. So because of that, that really kind of inspired me to think about a mentorship program. So we actually kind of launched that at BCAIA, actually some of these mentees of mine, including Ashley, which actually, all these are, 3 of them are recent graduates actually from Berkeley. So Ashley graduated from Stats, working now at Facebook. Luna graduated from Haas, so it's computer science, now working at Google. Wei actually studying computer science, now working at Apple. So all these are Berkeley graduates, and all these are recent graduates as well, and all of them have actually been mentees of mine. And because of them, that's why I kind of mentioned a little bit about the mentorship and how that's relevant for you guys, and I'll talk more about that later. But let's really kind of dive into, but just to put things into perspectives is really kind of when I was preparing these things, I kind of find the relevancies for all of you guys in terms of what it means, right, and the useful aspects. So first data point about 3 things. The first thing being, when you talk about skill sets, it's not just skills, not just technical skills, but abilities. Of course, everybody knows technical skills, right? I mean, technical skills really kind of compose of a lot of these like coding and programming. How many of you guys are in a STEM major? Raise your hand if you're in a STEM major. Okay, very good. It's probably a half of you guys. The other half is sort of like non-STEM or business for that matter. So on the business side, there's the marketing aspect, there's the writing aspect, right? And then there's really sort of the project management and other things. So all these are quote unquote what we consider our technical skills. But what's important is this, technical skills are just the sort of the entry aspect of things. What's really more important is to hone your technical skills and put them into what I call abilities, like writing, like marketing, like all the things you can put them into sort of what I call different buckets of abilities, like critical thinking ability, creativity, negotiation, call it, service, being service oriented, or at the very top of that, at a 12 o'clock, right, is problem solving ability. That to me is probably the most important thing, because all these things at the end of it, it's really kind of composed back into sort of the problem solving. Specifically, you look at, when I say skill set on the green zone, right, skills or technical skills are just one aspect of it. Right, you actually have the knowledge, you have the other ways of doing things, all these things, what I compose ability. So what you want to do is to be able to not just the technical aspect, which oftentimes a lot of people kind of focus on initially, but it's really your ability. And as an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, it's myself being an entrepreneur and an investor. What I really care about are people that can really be able to problem solve, by having these quote-unquote abilities in that way. So please remember, not just the skills, but abilities, right? That's one aspect of things that's really important. The other thing is what I call building a financial base. How many of you want to have have financial freedom? I.e. meaning that you have money so you don't have to work for anybody. Raise your hand if you want to do that. Yeah, that should be a majority of you, right? Okay, very good. I think I see majority of you. At the end of the day, you don't want to work for anybody if you don't have to. You want to be able to fire your boss, right? If you can, right? And that is something that I want you guys to have those abilities. And how do you do that? Well, in order to do that, you have to have financial freedom. What does that mean, financial freedom? What it means is take advantage of low-hanging fruits, right? One instance is time value of money. We always talk about financial literacy. Well, in fact, it's very simple. You look at S&P 500, for instance. Over the years, the life cycle of the S&P 500, you have more than 400 times return. Over the years, of course, that's over 100 years. But you don't need to look at 100 years. You look at just like since the 90s on the bottom. Since the 90s until now, 20-some years. 20-some, 30 years. Within that time frame, you return your money is 21 times. What does that mean? Well, what it means is if you have $100,000, right, over this period of time, without doing anything, you get more than $2 million. Imagine that. Imagine that. And that's one of the things I actually kind of thought I'm very smart, graduate from Berkeley, I can play around stocks. But I realized after 10 years, actually, in fact, I screw up. So what I realized is it's actually better for you just not to, be too sophisticated. Make a simple low-hanging fruit, invest your money in S&P and NASDAQ, and you get 21 times return. So do that. That's low-hanging fruit, by the way. Right? The other thing that I think is very important is about quote unquote the American dream. It's buy the smallest home in a good area. And that's also very low-hanging fruit, right? Just do something simple, don't need to be sophisticated. Buy things like that. And if you can do this right, in about 10, 20 years, you get a few $1 million. And in a few $1 million, you are financially independent. You can fire your boss, right? You can fire your bosses, right? So that's one thing that I want you guys to remember that, That's something that I actually didn't know early on enough. So this is an important lesson for me because I kind of bought some very risky stock and then it didn't go anywhere, right? So that's very important. Lastly, I want to mention about building networks and mentors, finding folks in that. And this is actually coming from a friend of mine. His name is Baidu's founder, Robin Li. How many of you heard of it? Raise your hand if you heard. Okay, that's also everybody. Very good. You guys are very good about that. So, and I actually had dinner with Robin. And one thing that I asked him and say, hey, Robin, if you were to do it over again, what's one advice would you give, so that you become more successful? And one thing that he said, he said was, well, Chuck, if I had a mentor or mentors that would actually guide me along the way, I think I could have made it even earlier, even more successful. So that's really important about that, is really kind of seek out, quote unquote, these mentors. It doesn't have to be one, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, different mentors along the way. So sort of like engaging on that. And that's one of the things that I think the alumni side that we do, right? And actually, part of the alumni association that we have a very very interesting board. We have like the one on the left, right, is Dr. John Deng, which is the most successful Berkeley alumnus in China. He's won what you call the Nobel Prize equivalent in China, being the youngest member of the Chinese Academy of Engineering. He's also an advisor to, of course, the president and the government. But he's also been a quote-unquote an entrepreneur, right? So this is what I want you guys to train. I've actually also sit on the board of this publicly traded company, which is the first NASDAQ-traded company on semiconductor as well. And then to the right of that is another board member, the dean of the #1 business school, Tsinghua Business School in China. And so it's really kind of getting affiliations on that. But not only that, not only affiliation, right, but really kind of play an active role. What do I mean by playing an active role? For instance, this is the woman and the lady. How many of you guys know the woman in the middle? Raise your hand if you know who she is. I see only the engineers know who she is, right? Because she's the dean of our engineering. And she's the first female dean of engineering. Her name is Professor Sujay Liu. She's a good friend of BCAIA, but she's also been someone when she became the first dean of engineering. One of the first things that I actually did is actually hosted a dinner for her, and to a very, very interesting man to the right. You may not know who he is, but you may know our arch competitor, Stanford University. He's the president and he's actually, in fact, the most successful president of Stanford University. His name is John Hennessy. And John actually, I asked John, I said, John, of course we hate Stanford, but we got to learn from them, right? You can hate them, but you can hate them, but you have to learn the secrets from them. Don't just hate somebody, right? Learn from them. So one of the first things I did is say, John, I want to set up a dinner so that my good friend Sujay can learn a bit about what Stanford has done right. And so that's what I did. So it's really kind of interactions about engagement. How to sort of establish this and learn from the best and learn from what they have to offer. And sort of what I said is this engagement with people, right? It's just, of course, all of you guys are Berkeley graduates, right? Or no, Berkeley students, but don't just be, as a student, but really sort of keep an engagement and do something about it. And so I did, and so in addition to this, actually, in fact, this is actually, most recently, I actually also set up a whole bunch of, set up a new organization called World Leading Scientist Institute with Berkeley, and uniting with Stanford. So Berkeley Nobel laureates, as well as actually Turing winners, combined with Berkeley and Stanford. We have a happy marriage now, Berkeley and Stanford combined together, supporting something called the World Leading Scientist Institute. So it's also engagement, if you will. But the point that I want to say is actually, it's this. It's the network itself, but really kind of engage on the network. And I actually been very fortunate over the last year or so, 5 of my friends become billionaires. 5. But funny enough is, it's only out of 2 networks. You don't need to be involved with many things. And one of the network one of the network is all of you and me belong to, which is the Berkeley network. So 3 friends out of Berkeley become billionaires. You may know some of that. Tony Xu, founder and CEO of DoorDash. His company went public, he's a billionaire. My investment, which is a multi-billion-dollar company called Databricks. Databricks became a $38 billion company. So the founders all become billionaires. These are also Berkeley folks. So my, and so the other network, I'll tell you later when you ask me that question. But it's just out of 2 so it's engagement. Remember that, get involved with the network, but also engage with that. So that's another point that I want to bring up. So anyways, in summary, the 3 things I mentioned, building not just skills, but abilities, right? Building a financial base, do something that is low-hanging fruit. Don't need to be sexy. Just do something very plain vanilla, and you do very well financially. Thirdly is, when you are part of this network, which all of you guys are, don't take it for granted. Engage in it, so that you have play an active role, so that quote unquote you can create your own billionaires. Like remember Chuck's billionaire network, right? So you guys can all do that as well, right? And then more about entrepreneurs. This is something that I like about this, and let's see if it's right. All right, this is.
Sure. Whatever happens next.
Oh, wait a minute. This is my picture.
Sure. Whatever happens next. Let's just go with it.
Go with it. Go
Like
Mr.
that.
Starr.
Hey.
Hello. How was your flight?
It was excellent. Boy, it's nice to see
We
you.
have one photographer from the ACM if you don't mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When did this happen?
You made me do it.
I made you
You
do
had
it.
a smile. Great guy. Stop acting constipated. Don't play your nostrils.
Right this way.
Thanks. You look fantastic.
Why, thank you very
But
much.
that's unprofessional. What's on the docket?
You have a 9:30 dinner.
Perfect. I'll be there at 11. Is this us?
Absolutely. It can be.
Great. Make it us.
Okay.
Mr. Musk, how are you?
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much.
Those Merlin mansions are fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, good idea for an electric jet.
You do. Then we'll make it work. You want a massage?
Oh,
I'll have Natalie make it for you.
I
you to
don't
be
want
tense.
Natalie to be
By the way, I didn't mean to spring this
Thank
on
you very much.
So you're right. Good job. So it's actually fun enough. The co-founder of Tesla, also another Berkeley alum, a good friend of mine. Elon, by the way, he was not a co-founder. He's actually an investor turned CEO of Tesla. But it's really about it's about nurturing and being part and taking an engagement and an active role in the network. So on that front, I actually also, before I go up to my last point about Q&A, I actually also want to let you know that we actually have something which we invited the first woman VP, first female woman VP born overseas, Chinese born overseas. And she will be speaking on March 26th. So you guys are all welcome to join us, because that's actually part of our mentorship program. And then to stay connected, you guys can scan. I'll leave this on. You guys can scan it, on Instagram. We both post a lot of our Instagram stuff. And our VP of marketing, Sabrina, raise your hand right here. She's right here. So she's also here as well for my mentorship program. You can say hello to her as well. So I have maybe a minute or two for Q&A. Any questions? Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi. And thank you so much for this talk. As someone who does run a startup and who has been from Skydeck, I noticed that investors, they tend to look for different traits in founders. You were talking about different abilities.
Yeah.
What are the top abilities that you would look for in a founder when you're investing in them?
Right, very good. Well, I think the first and foremost is abilities as in being able to lead a team, right? Especially for early stage companies. You need to be able to show that you can lead a team, right? So that leadership quality is very important, right? I think the other thing is in addition to being that team, I think the other thing is right now actually I think it's also being able to and probably usually it's a CEO and a CTO combination. Those are the two best. So if you yourself is a CTO, for instance, you want to be able to have someone who's more experienced on the CEO side, or vice versa. Right. So I think that's probably a very important combination as a start. Yeah. And we can talk more about that later. I have, I guess, 1 more minute. I'm just looking at the time. Any other? Okay, go ahead.
Can you please reveal what's the second network? I'm just really curious.
Oh,
I want to
yes.
cafe.
Okay, very good. All right, for the second network, and I think that the second network is I actually have it ready. It's something called the Asia Society Global Young Leaders. So every year, Asia Society, by the way, is started by Rockefeller family. And basically, some of the board members include Kevin Rudd, which is on the bottom. He was the former Prime Minister of Australia, for instance. He's the current CEO. And every year, they pick about 30 to 40 leaders globally, every year. And I happen to be one of them. And so out of that's two people. One is actually a friend of mine, which also CEO and founder. He started a real estate tech company, took it public, and went for $10 billion. And then the other actually person, which is actually linked to Asia Society, he actually won the award for what we call the Asia Game Changers Award. Jack Ma of Alibaba won that. He won that just a couple years ago. His name, you guys all know him because you use this product. His name is Eric Yuan, founder and CEO of Zoom. So he's linked to Asia Society Network. So that being said, thank you very much. You guys have wonderful questions. Okay, appreciate it.